Yo, what's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You know who it is. This is your buddy Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song Day Rock 2000. To today, happy first Tuesday, March 3rd, first Tuesday of March for y'all. And guys, I got another guest on the show, but this time it's not a band. No. It's one of my good friends. But before we jump into our conversation, let me go through the shameless plugs. As you guys know, this is the section of the podcast where if I had advertising, I'd put it out there. But because I don't, you guys just listen to hear me speak. So let's get into it. For the My Song Day Rock 2008 stuff, please follow us on Facebook to find out anytime anything gets released, Twitter to find out anything gets released, plus whenever we decide to, talk to you guys, because we always want to talk to you guys got to talk to us on there. Follow us on Instagram. That is our most prominent place where you can follow us. Find the 30-second Song of the Day preview anytime anything gets released, the IGTV episodes every single Tuesday night, which is behind the scenes look at what we're doing here, and the live streams. You can join us every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central. And we decided Thursday, April 9th, one of our good friends of the podcast, friends of the live stream follower, Maddie, it's her 21st birthday. She said that she wasn't going to be doing much for it. And we're going to do our very own live stream special for Maddie. We're going to try and get a couple people on to wish her a happy birthday. And we're just going to have a fun time doing it. So please join us then. Mark it on your calendars and follow us on TikTok as well. Links, everything in the description below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because on YouTube, you can do things such as watch all our YouTube videos come out every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. And that's all our album reviews, band reviews, any kind of fun thing we do. A lot of album reviews lately, though. So go subscribe to that. You can also watch the Chord Progression Podcast on YouTube as well. So you can watch this interview if you so please, and some of the fun stuff that we do there with the video. And you can also listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Link description below as well. And over our Amazon Alexa skill, because that's where you can hear all of the Song of the Day features full force. So it's a great way to start your day, end your day, rediscover old bands you used to love, discover new ones you're gonna love, discover new music, discover the smaller bands on Small Band Saturday, which are up and coming bands that are gonna blow you away in the next couple of years. So go get in early on them with that. And this whole entire My Song of the Day thing is a great way to expand your knowledge of rock music and get involved with the community of people that love rock music. Enough with the shameless plugs. Let's get on to it. I got a chance to sit down with my good friend Chris. Now, I've known Chris since we were in high school, about our junior year of high school. Funny story, me and my best friend Alex, we were going to prom at a completely different school. He was going with his girlfriend, I was going with his girlfriend's best friend, and we met this tall, lanky guy named Chris, and we're like, who's this guy? Like, this guy might be a weirdo. Turns out this dude is a great motherfucker. He is one of my best friends. He currently lives in Minnesota, but I can't wait to see him again sometime soon. We got into talking all things rock and metal, about the new Five Finger Death Punch album. We got to talk about the new Polaris album as well, which came out a week prior, which we are both incredibly big on. And you guys just get some fun banter between friends on that one too. It's always a great time to listen to. Always a great time to talk to Chris. So now you guys get to listen to as well. Let's get Chris on the podcast right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here with me today is one of my best friends of all time. He was on the podcast once before for our midway through the year 2019 review, and then looking forward to the rest of 2019. He is back again to talk about a couple new albums with me. Please welcome one of my good friends, Chris, currently living in Minnesota.
What up, Kevin? Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be on the show. Can't wait to get talking about some metal. There's nothing I like more.
Oh, it's always a great time. I think the only thing you might like more than metal is probably kickboxing, but that's about it.
Yeah, I don't get hurt when I guess I get hurt when I go to metal, but not when I listen to
it. I mean, you can get hurt while listening, just, constantly just get some whiplash on your neck. But
yeah, that's half the fun.
All right, enough with the motherfucking pleasantries, because we came here to talk about some music, and probably the biggest release of February, because after maybe Green Days, was Five Finger Death Punch's F8, which came out on Friday, February 28th. And taking a look at some of the previous work they've done, like Got Your Six and Justice for None, it's just like, okay, there was a lot of controversy going into this one as to how the band was going to sound. So let's get started with it. Chris, when you first listen to F8, what were your initial thoughts going into it, and what'd you kind of start thinking about it? And we'll go through a little bit track by track style if we want to. We'll go through it however the hell we want.
So my initial thought is that it was definitely a step forward for Five Finger. A lot of their previous 2 or 3 albums, in my opinion, had been really uninspired ever really since American Capitalist. It's been pretty tough going for them. They've kind of almost just been a cover band, at least anything you hear on the radio. It's good to hear them writing their own music again and having a little bit of success with it. Honestly, I liked that they toned it back on their scaly, generic for Five Finger guitar solos. It seems like a lot of the solos they'd been doing had just been that quick, scaly guitar solo, and I had not been a fan of that, which they opened up with on Fate, actually, the first album off the track, and I was kind of concerned they were going to do that all the way through again. But they dialed it back a little bit, and I was actually pretty happy about that.
As was I. I was really concerned going into this one, especially after listening to the first 3 singles, and we'll get into each single in a little bit, but just kind of a base of where I was going off it. After hearing Inside Out, really taking a look at what the song meaning was and how they went through it, I actually really liked Inside Out. I thought it was one of the stronger tracks on the album. But then I was nervous after hearing stuff like Full Circle and Living the Dream, because I thought we were getting the same old Five Finger Death Punch we've gotten the past couple of albums, and it just didn't sound like anything that was really out there. One other thing I took a look at too with those tracks was, especially with the singles, were the meanings and the themes that they really went with behind those. And with Inside Out, there was more or less talking about Ivan Moody and what he went through with his addiction, going through rehab, and even, looking at people and seeing people that he was losing as friends in the music scene, including Chester Bennington, which is one that he actually ended up mentioning in an interview. But you take a look at like Living the Dream, and they're talking about the media, or you take a look at Full Circle, they're talking about the media once again, which they've done plenty of times. But so it seemed like already it's like we're getting a lot of the same stuff. They're talking about the exact same stuff, going with the exact same sound. But then when they went with something a little bit different, a little bit more personal, we got something a little bit more inspired in my end, or in my take, I should say.
So what track are you referring to when you say a little more personal?
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Okay, got you. Inside Out was definitely one of the strongest tracks off of the album. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, surprise song for me, a little bit off. I actually really like that. I like that they took the time to change the sound a little bit. They went with that acoustic opening. It's something they've done similarly before, but I think they did a really good job executing it on a little bit off.
A little bit off was one of the tracks where it was with that intro, with that acoustic kind of twangy guitar, giving it, more of like a weird, like country music down home kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. I looked at that and I thought, okay, we definitely have something starting here. But then as I was going through it, especially with the vocals and the verses, I was just thrown off of it completely, because there was a part in there where they really brought in like some like electronica, maybe like some dubstep remix into Ivan Moody's vocals. That was like the one moment of that song where it came really early too, and it was consistent in the verses. It just basically, just said, nah, I'm done with this, just because they had a nice build at the beginning, but then that kind of just ruined the whole entire rest of the song for me.
I get what you're saying. They had that really strong vocal distortion. I don't know what the heck it was that they were using, but it did seem a little bit out of place in context of the song. But at the same time, it didn't completely ruin the song for me.
See, and that's always a great thing about, you're getting 2 different people that had 2 different takes on it, where for you, that didn't necessarily ruin the song. For me, that was probably what I called the cringiest moment on the album, was that one specific instance, because it's, again, I've seen a lot of bands do stuff like that where, they're trying to pull in different influences, maybe some more electronic influence as well, or maybe kind of go a little bit, like a little bit softer vibe as well. I saw that a lot from a couple of previous releases, like with The Word Alive, like with Amity Affliction, and it was something that I really couldn't get behind. And here, I will say this though, with Five Finger Death Punch, that was the only moment they really used that on this album. So it really only took one song out of it for me, rather than what like Amity or Word Alive did, where they took out multiple songs or even an entire album. And that's kind of more towards Amity on that one.
I think that electronic influence is it's been kind of a trend in the rock the rock scene as of recently. I think with the success that I Prevail had using that electronic style inside of their music and how they were able to execute it, a lot of other bands were kind of starting to look towards that and seeing how they could incorporate that into their own music.
Yeah, and like another band like Amity Affliction, like on their previous release Misery before Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them, they did a lot of that too. And I mean, that was a real polarizing topic as well, because there's a lot of older fans that looked at it and really didn't like any of that at all, because you're taking a lot of what they thought was like the bite, the teeth, just a lot of that raw energy away from it. And you're trying to go with something that's going to be, a little bit more popular towards the masses, more radio friendly. Even take a look at I Prevail as well. Yes, they've used it. And there are parts and times on their last album, Trauma, where I actually liked how they used it as well. Like in a song like Hurricane, because they kind of mixed a lot of different styles up in that one song. However, there's a lot of bands that I think are doing that to try and maybe gain some more radio attention, gain some more radio play, and really start to basically engross themselves in that popular culture music scene. Because even take a look at I Prevail. They were at the Grammys this past year, and I'm not sure if they won any awards, but the fact that doesn't matter was they were there, along with other big behemoth bands like Killswitch Engage. And I know Killswitch Engage didn't do anything of the sort on their last album, Atonement. And I'm glad they didn't, because that album, even though it wasn't one of my favorites, like they had good moments on there, especially the Signal Fire. They brought back Howard Jones. Oh man, that was one of the best songs of the year last year.
Signal Fire was an absolute banger. Also, the Crownless King. I got down to the Crownless King.
Not bad. Are you going to see them, Killswitch, when they're going to be in Minneapolis with August Burns Red and Light the Torch? Like, that's right around the time when August Burns Red's releasing their new album too.
If I remember correctly, they're releasing it the day that they are in Minnesota. So I am really wanting to go see that, but my pocketbook is crying big tears right now from all the concerts that I've been booking up. I booked tickets to the Rage Against the Machine tour that's coming up, right. And that one hurt. That one hurt a lot, but man, I can't miss that. That's one of those bucket list bands that I have to see at least once. And with being such a long period in between this tour and their last tour, you got to take it while you have it.
Got to strike the iron while it's hot. Very understandable. Where on my end, where it's like I'm not the biggest Rage fan overall. There's songs there that I do like, but even like for like their punk rock style, I never really fully got into it. So it's like, and I know it's like with when it's going on in Minneapolis, it's like, yeah, the show they're playing up by where you are. Yeah, it's the same day that I'm seeing Hollywood Undead here in Milwaukee, which is just like, well, I mean, we've seen them a couple of times together.
Yep.
And then the day that they're playing in Wisconsin and at Alpine Valley, it's the same day I'm going to a Christian rock music festival up in Oshkosh, because two bands I've been working with are playing up there, and I get a chance to see them and hang out with them both.
You gonna name drop? What are those two bands?
I had them both on the podcast. Last week when I had Amongst the Giants on, that's one of them. And then the girl band of GFM, they'll be up there as well. So I get to see both of them.
Hey, you've been telling me a lot about them. I'm excited to see them at Rockfest, which also ate a giant hole in my checkbook too, between camping and tickets and what I know that I'm going to spend on booze and food when I'm there.
Yeah, and I know I'm still trying to make sure I can get my ass there too. So we'll see about that one and see if I can join you on that one.
Yep. And then I also have that Five Finger show coming up here with Five Finger with I Prevail and Ice Nine, which I'm pretty excited for. I'm excited to see Five Finger live. It's going to be good.
I'm still trying to go to the one in Chicago that they're having for that one too. I gotta say, I'll put it this way, mostly because I wanted to see Ice Nine again, even though they're only playing like 5 or 6 songs because they're the opening act, and they're still gonna fucking kick ass out there. However, after listening to F8, I'm more inclined to want to go see Five Finger Death Punch now.
Yeah, I'm thinking Ivan's getting a little bit of his bite back. He's coming back from that bad time in his life, and hopefully that revitalization of himself will be shown on stage.
I hope so too, and the reason why I think that's definitely going to be the case is because it was something that was really shown in the album. Like the songs, in my opinion, was the songs where they really talked about more that addiction and more of what Ivan Moody had gone through, where they kind of got more personal, showed a little bit more emotion in the vocals, and then had a lot more depth to those songs.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta find like which ones, because A Little Bit Off kind of had a little bit of it. Shoot, I'm like literally scrolling through. I'm like, okay, which one is it? Which one is it? It was closer towards the end. Darkness Settles In was one where I'm like, okay, this was something I wasn't necessarily expecting, but I thought it was really well done. It was really powerful. And
that was another one of those songs that starts off a little bit lighter and kind of builds throughout the course of the song, which I like that approach.
Yeah, because it was something where, like, with a lot of times with Five Finger, it's like they just jump right into it, straight up, just go straight for it. I mean, take a look at like War Is the Answer, The Pride. There's another one that they just kind of just jump straight into it. So a lot of like
This is War off of this album did that same thing where they just crammed it down your throat right off the start.
Yeah, they literally just went straight at you with that one. They did not relent on that thing at all.
Not for a second. I don't think there was a clean vocal anywhere in that track.
No, and that was one part of the track where I was like, or one track I was like, you know what? I like that they went hard on that one, but I just also kind of took a little bit out of me because I'm like, they think they just went hard for the sake of going hard on that one. To the point where there's a lot of the older Five Finger Death Punch fans that are going to really, really, really like that track. And even when I was talking to some people about it, they really liked that track. They said it was one of their favorites because of that. Where me, I wanted to see a little bit more experimentation with your sound, a little bit more experimentation with the vocals instead of just going unclean throughout the whole entire thing. I mean, we got a lot of songs like that on the record, but like that one, it was just like, of course, I knew there was going to be some people that were like, this is going to be the favorite.
To that point, I think they kind of going back to the guitar solos, I think they did a really good job of keeping a lot of their solos a lot more melodic on this album than just shredding, basically seeing how fast my fingers can go up and down this guitar. And I was a big fan of that, showing a little bit of finesse inside of their solos instead of just brute force all the way through.
Same here as well. That was a pretty big like selling point for this album after I listened to it one time through. I'm like, if I want to listen to it again, what's one thing I'd really be looking for? And it was those guitar solos, because even when they went with that classic Five Finger sound and just kind of just went, again, like straight at you, it's like, okay, that's fine and all, but there's points in time where it just gets bland. However, when they brought in those guitar solos at times, it's like, okay, now we got some more depth. We got something more to hang on to with this song, and it really did work out well.
Completely agree.
There was a couple of times with like some of the experimentation too that I thought I was looking, I'm like, wait, why did they do this? But it sounded really interesting. I got to go to, what song was it? Bottom of the Top, because I like the instrumentation and the vocals and how they mix at certain times. It kind of threw me off because of right when you start listening to that song, the first thing that came to my mind was, this sounds a lot like Master of Puppets. Like it just went straight for that Metallica thrash metal style.
I didn't make that connection. I'll have to listen to it again and
just
see if I hear it.
The first 10 seconds, you're gonna hear it.
I really love the line from that song. I just wanted to be the brightest fucking falling star. That line hits me. I like that.
That one got me to laugh too. I'm like, holy shit, that is hilarious. But
that encapsulates who Ivan Moody is as a person. Really, he doesn't care. At least historically, he hasn't cared what he sees in the news for. He's just been getting that. He's been a very polarizing figure. Whether you think he's great or whether you think he's an asshole, he's always been one of those people that's been recognized for his doings. Sure. For lack of a better word.
I don't know what other word you would put there. I think just doings is the right way to put it. However, there was one part of that song, and I don't know where the connection for me came with this, but all of a sudden hearing Ivan Moody's vocals in the chorus and just how it was constructed, it was like some like heavy metal, thrash metal, like Sum 41 style chorus. And I looked at that the first time after like, you should have seen my face after the first time I heard that. I just was like, what the fuck was that?
What just happened?
But then I listened to it again the second time. I'm like, this is weird, but it's a weird thing that actually works.
Bottom of the Top was a really solid song. I think that one was probably pretty personal to Ivan, and it showed in the way that the song was written.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that are going to really really latch on that song and really feel for it as well, because it got more personal with Ivan overall, which is, like I said earlier, when they really went with that, those were the songs I thought were the strongest.
It's kind of that whole you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Okay,
Batman. Okay. I'm not sure if Ivan Moody really could be Batman though, but
he'd be a little. I don't think he'd fit in the suit.
Nah, he would need like something that's more shirtless, a little bit more sinister, something like Bane. Honestly, you think that'd be perfect for him?
Short Bane.
Yeah, real short Bane. How tall is Ivan Moody anyway? Because I didn't even look that up. But like, I know he's not that tall.
Man, give me just a second here because I got to imagine it's like 5'10".
Then that's not too short.
Well, I think I might be being generous for the sake of if he ever listens to this, me not getting in trouble and getting attacked by that dude on his band that knows more jiu-jitsu than I do.
Very true.
Ivan Moody height.
Should play the Jeopardy theme during this. I should do that in post, just like doo doo doo.
Honestly, you probably should. Well, he's 1.83 meters, whatever the hell that means. And
all right, we're gonna do the conversion on this one then.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I have no clue. I don't know why Google's given it to me in the metric system. Honestly, we should switch to the metric system. But if you give me the metric system at this point in time, I can't tell you nothing. That's how that translates to the English.
Alrighty, I gotta look this up. So you said it was 1.83.
1.83 meters.
Then if it's 1.83 meters, then he is like just at 6 feet.
I think that's like a combine measurement. That's with the shoes on.
How big of shoes are we talking though?
Platforms. Sorry, Ivan, if you hear this, don't kick my ass.
Just don't kick any of our asses, because I mean, honestly, you'd probably kick my ass too. Well, I'm not even as good of a fighter as you are, so I would definitely be just flat on my ass.
Big fan of a lot of your work, Ivan. There was a little rough patch in there, but as a whole, I like a general amount of it.
I'm just gonna come out and say I've never been the biggest Five Finger Death Punch fan, but it's something that's like I've never been big on him, but I've never been like little on him either. I've been neutral. I neutral them.
So when I started off in metal and rock and roll, I really started off with like the new metal scene. So I really started off with like Slipknot, Disturbed, Five Finger, Chord. That was kind of my introduction to metal, being that was everything that was being played on the radio. So I do have a soft spot for Five Finger because they were one of my initial bands that kind of got me into the metal scene.
Yeah, whereas for me, it was like the band that really jumped me into that was one that you mentioned, which was Disturbed. However, I think kind of like when it came to you and I, like, especially like, you know, around that time, that was probably like around, we were like, what, like 6th, 7th grade or something like that? Like back like 06, 07.
Pretty young before I understood a lot of what they were saying.
Yeah, because you end up going more towards like, you end up going more metal. I end up going more rock, hard rock, punk rock, because I end up going more towards like 3 Days Grace, Rise Against, and then eventually when I met you, it was like all of a sudden, okay, we're going to this concert. I'm like, okay, what fucking concert is it? Hollywood Undead.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun at the Hollywood Undead shows. I think we probably went to three or four of those at Summerfest out in Milwaukee.
I think we went to 3. I think it was 3 years in a row. And then I went to one in 2017 at the Rave, and now again in 2020. So
then I'll be seeing them again at Rockfest. It'll be really cool to see I haven't seen them since they still had Johnny Five, or what's not Johnny Five? Who's the guy that left the band? The help me out here.
You're not talking about Deuce, are you?
Thank you. Deuce. I knew it was number related, but yeah, before Deuce left the band, because that's when we were seeing him, when Deuce was still a part of the act.
No, Deuce was not a part of the act when we saw them, actually.
No kidding.
Deuce.
Man, I guess I'm not too great on my Hollywood Undead trivia. Yeah. All I knew is I like some of their music.
Deuce wasn't around for the second album.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's been what's his name? Danny. He's been the guy that's doing all the choruses since their second album.
There we go.
Because he basically took Deuce's spot, and then because I've been talking with some people about that, especially after their last release, and it was something where when we talked about it, I talked about with people, it was a lot of people liked Hollywood Undead more with Deuce because they thought they did a lot more with Deuce, even though they only had swan songs off of it. But Danny works well as like as a compliment to the rest of the guys. Just kind of with like a little bit more of a higher pitch vocals. I mean, not as high pitches like Kellen Quinn or Vic Fuentes, but kind of like just like a little bit more higher pitches, like a little bit of a different style, just to combat, you know, like a little bit more of a rougher rapping style between Johnny Three Tears and a little bit of Charlie as well. So it just kind of it works.
I am excited to see them. It's been a long time since I've seen them, and honestly, I haven't kept up on their music too much. That's one of those bands that I kind of it pops up in my playlist every now and again. I listen to the old stuff, but I haven't done the greatest job of keeping up on the new releases basically since
Notes from the Underground.
Yep. Thank you. Since Notes from the Underground. So it's going to be good to see them live and hear some of that new stuff. It's always better, or in my opinion, it's always a better listen when you're hearing something live and you can actually feel the music hitting you than when you're just listening to it in a pair of headphones.
Yeah, well, one thing I got lucky with that though was because I remember I went to the gym like super early in the morning that day, and it still had like, because I still download everything for use for like this stuff, like nothing to download yet, and I'm like, okay, so I got off the bike and I was gonna start doing abs and stuff, and all of a sudden, oh, now I can download it. Perfect. Played the first song, it was one of the singles. I'm like, oh, it was okay. Played the second song, and I'm just like just working out while listening to that second song called Heart of a Champion. Perfect way to start it out. Like, okay, here we go. There were some ups and downs in there, but compared to their other albums, like their Day of the Dead had an equal amount of ups and downs. 5 had a lot more downs than ups, and this one kind of equaled it back out again. So I was rather pleased with it. Plus, they've got a song that they did a really good job featuring Kellen Quinn on it.
Going back to Rockfest again, if I remember correctly, the lineup for the day that they play is Hollywood Undead, Snoop Dogg, and then Limp Bizkit.
Wait, what?
I know, it's gonna be wild. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Snoop Dogg. I'm just gonna let you know right now, it's gonna be such a good concert. It's so weird that they brought him into a rock festival, but the day that they worked him in there fits so perfectly, having Hollywood Undead and Limp Bizkit before and after him.
Oh, that's perfect. The only thing is what will you be partaking in during the show?
That's I plead the fifth.
I'll put it this way. I will definitely be the one sipping on gin and juice because, well, I like gin.
Well, hey, when you're in a crowd, it's a lot harder to find who's passing what around. So, if something, not saying I'm going to bring anything, feds, I hear you listening, but
we all hear you listening.
But if something works its way over to me, then I may partake.
I'm going to still stick with my gin and juice. That's for the feds.
For the feds. There's a lot of really good bands there, and man, I can't freaking wait. That's my yearly just cut loose and live like there's nobody watching week, and being able to do that one time a year is something I need.
So I gotta get on that too, but it's just there's like a couple other trips this year too that I've got to figure out. However, I've been saving a good amount of money for it. It seems like with me I'm planning on going over to Europe in September, so try to get enough money for that. However, things are looking really, really nice on that end, so it's not going to be nearly as expensive, so I can start playing around with a couple other things as well. One of them definitely being Rockfest. Is
that going to be for that camp that you go to every year?
No. I'm not doing that this year.
Okay.
I did it last year. I'm like, it'd be fun, but it's the same place. It's gonna be the same thing over and over again. To the point where it's like, I want to go back over to Europe because I had so much fun with the people over there, but I just want to see different places.
What's the name of that camp that you go? Camp Mars. Thank you.
Yeah.
There it is.
30 Seconds to Mars one.
Is the itinerary pretty similar year to year?
I think so, yeah, because it was different the second time when I went out to Croatia versus when I was out in California with it, just because,
sure,
you're dealing with a whole different scenery, whole different area. So it was a lot different, but it's like if I went back, I'm pretty sure it'd be the same thing again.
Fair enough.
Not saying it wouldn't be fun, but it's just there's other things I want to do, like
yeah, definitely,
like go to Austria and go see a couple of concerts over there and just get in those insane mosh pits and potentially die, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Those Europeans know how to mosh. So the metal fans over in Europe, they're real metal fans. They don't play around. Oh God, one of my friends, she lives in Bratislava, Slovakia. She goes to concerts in Vienna all the time, and I'm ended up going hanging out there for like a couple of days too. She sent me a bunch of videos of, I think it was what show was it? Was that the because I'm trying to think who's over there and who did she last see? I think it was Amity Affliction and Beartooth. And just with, we know how crazy Beartooth gets.
I think that's the band that I've actually seen most. I think I've seen Beartooth I think I've seen them 5 times now.
Damn. I only got them once. But you know what I'm talking about, where you see them and you just the amount of energy that they bring. Now, imagine that, but over in Europe where the crowd is even crazier. It was just the videos I was seeing because she was up on the balcony as well. I looked at them like, I just want to jump in there and just go nuts.
That in South America. I've seen some Slipknot mosh pits from South America, and holy shit. Biggest circle pits, biggest walls of death that I've ever seen.
All right, we got to do South America next year then, because holy crap. That sounds like fun.
South America would be a cool trip. I definitely want to make it down there at some point in my life, but, you know. I got that blue collar, little bit above minimum wage job, so I do the best I can.
None of that, but I know you gotta take care of Remy too, because that dog's just a freaking animal. Just runs around all over the place. Yeah, he's a
handful. On the bright side, we can always with my wife's grandparents living up here, they love that dog, so we can always just give Remy to them for a week, and they're more than happy to watch him. So. Getting away from Rem isn't too big of a problem. Lou the cat, they hate cats, so sometimes finding someone to babysit Lou is pretty tough. But at the same time, you just leave him out 5 pounds of food in a place to take a crap, and he'll basically take care of himself.
You just gotta make sure when you come back, there's still at least a little bit of food in there, so he didn't eat it all. It's like, holy shit, what did he last eat?
I'm pretty sure he'd eat the 5 pounds of food in one sitting, and then he'd just work off his fat reserves for the rest of the week.
Oh God, good old Lou.
Come back to a big old bloated cat. But we were talking about how metal has had that electronic influence. I've also felt like there's been kind of a counter push to that, where I've been noticing. Maybe not so much in mainstream, but there's been a revitalization of metalcore as a genre as well as of recently.
Oh, definitely. And I've been hearing that but it's not necessarily in the US. It's mostly in different parts of the world, like Australia being one. And then Germany is the other hotbed, where it's like, I've talked to some of the bands I've talked to have gone over to Germany as well. It's just like, they've been saying just with metalcore, it's such a huge thing over there. And I mean, Germany is the place they always point to.
I know I just brought this up to you yesterday. I don't know how much you got to look at it, but the Heavy Music Awards in Britain, UK has some really, really, really solid metalcore bands that are coming out of there right now too. I think Europe is a real hotbed for metalcore, and I'm really hoping that starts to make its way over to the US and mainstream a little bit more, because metal has been trending a bit softer, and I think that has to do with the music industry and what does and doesn't get radio play and how that influences the band's popularity. So I hope that metalcore can make a little bit of a mainstream comeback. It'll be tough, but I'd be really happy if it did.
I gotta say the exact same thing. I mean, I hope it does too, just because take a look at some of those big bands, like those big, bands that people consider metal or metalcore, that are winning awards. You have Killswitch Engage that's up there, and Killswitch Engage has always been that classic just metalcore sound through and through. They never really relented on that. However, you see a band like I Prevail with all the electronic influences. You see, I mean, for like rock and metal, for awards this year, especially for the Grammys, they put up Bring Me the Horizon, which after last year I was just like, no, just don't. But then
Ammo was tough. Ammo was. It seems like that. I don't know if we talked about this before on my last podcast, but even if we did, whatever, we'll go into it a little bit again. It seems like they were trying to almost get into cinematography with the way that their music was sounding. A lot of their stuff sounded like it was things that would be used over movie soundtracks.
Oh God, yeah. Except for maybe Mantra. Mantra was one that kind of had a little bit more of that hard rock sound to it, which I liked. But then afterwards, I just like, no.
Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea wasn't bad either. I did like that song as well.
I don't think I've listened to that song since I did my album review on it. I pretty much put that album and just shoved it way, 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 way back.
Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea has actually been still getting a lot of radio play out here in Minnesota.
Really?
Yep. So it might be worth going back and looking at it again. That was one of those songs that the first listen through, I wasn't necessarily sold on it, but the more that I listen to it and start to kind of familiarize myself with the song, I like it more and more as I listen to it.
Okay, fair enough. Because I know for me specifically, like, just listen to that album, I just kind of put my head in my hands. Was just like, what's going on here? Just because I couldn't stand it, even though there are a lot of people within rock and metal that really liked what Bring Me the Horizon did. I was definitely on the end. I was like, no, just no.
I need to look up the name of the song. I know in parentheses is Head Full of Hyenas. But it's a 24-minute song.
Oh, was that off of the album that they came out with like right at the end of the year? That sounded just like it was like literally like something just to get high to or something like that.
Yeah. What was the name of that? One sec. What was the name of that album? Nihilist Blues or not? Music to music to listen
something
to, dance
something to something
plays
to something to.
Yeah. There was one song off of there. Underground Big brackets head full of hyena, and it's a 24-minute song, and it's really meditative, and I actually really like it for that aspect. It's a song that I can sit down and it gets me to kind of think about my priorities and prioritize what I want to be doing. It's a good song to lay in bed to and just turn off everything and then just immerse yourself into the song.
Well, for being a 24-minute song, I mean, that's perfect to do that with. However, like, why I didn't like it just because that's not something that I normally would do. For me, it's just like, I mean, for me, kind of like do that, like, you know, turn off your mind and just not care about anything else that's going on and just kind of just get into that place of just mindful blissness is honestly just put me in the gym and let me just start running.
It's not one of those things that I do often, but, you know, maybe once a month or once every other month, I'll just kind of lay in bed, listen to that song and kind of prioritize the, you know, what's going on in life. It's a good song to do something like that too. And honestly, it's probably a pretty good song to get stoned and do that same thing. But I've been on a bit of a hiatus recently. So
that's for the government as well.
That's for my job, unfortunately.
We'll just say for the government.
For the government job.
For the feds that are listening, we are children of God. Oh.
Exactly. Anything else that you want to touch on in regards to the Five Fingers new album?
How about this? Just because we kind of went through what we liked about what we disliked about it. If you had to give it an overall rating from 0 to 10, of course, 0 being the worst, much like your house burning down, and 10 being, you know, all of a sudden that you are magically gifted a $3 million mansion and you don't have to pay taxes on it or anything on it. It's just yours for the taking. What would you give this album?
See, that's tough because it's better than a lot of old Five Finger, or better than a lot of recent Five Finger. Let me change that, what I just said there. It's not a 6, but it's not a 7. It's somewhere in between for me.
So that's a 6.3?
If we're going the Dave Portnoy pizza scale, we'll call it a 6.3.
Alrighty. Seems like you and I are rather consistent with what we thought of it. Like, I mean, rating wise, I gave it a 6. To where I was like, I mean, like, definitely like when you're saying like it's better than a 6, but not as good as a 7. I definitely like 6 is the perfect spot for it because just as the recap, there were times this album they went with those classic tropes and with the classic sound again, and it just at times it just didn't sound inspired nearly at all. However, when they went with stuff that really was more personal to the band, we're talking about Ivan Moody talking about what he went through and just kind of going through all the whole entire addiction trope and rehab and everything about it, showing more emotion in it and trying a couple of different things with the songs helped them out incredibly.
I personally think they could have made the album a couple songs shorter, maybe cut out 5 of them, and then that would have had a better review for me. But I think they included some stuff that they didn't necessarily need to.
I think I put that in there too. I put instead of like, you know, because what was it? It was the who made that album? I think it was Sum 41 made I'm all killer, no filler. This I'm like, there was some filler in here, definitely.
And yeah, it's a step forward. I think their previous couple albums sat more like 3 or a 4 for me. So they definitely took a step in the right direction, and I am happy to see that.
Yeah, because I'm just really going to read you what I had for my final thought, because I think this kind of puts it together. I said, overall, I've never been a big fan of Five Finger Death Punch. They were never a band that I clamored for or wanted to really listen to, but I never really wanted not to listen to them. It was just something that they were there. If they were going to be on, if you guys were going to play them, like if you're going to play them for me, yeah, I'd listen to them, but it wasn't something I was going to go out and search. Especially in that upcoming tour, the only reason I wanted to see Five Finger Death Punch is because Ice Nine Kills was opening. However, listening to F8, now I'm on a little bit of a different end on that because I thought that Ivan Moody surprised us with the increased vocal range overall, especially with the more emotional vocals within the songs about the addiction. And at times I've seen where they've been talked about, you know, they've had some cheaper lyrical content where they haven't been really inspired, just been kind of just cringy that I've heard some people say. And I thought they did a lot better job on this one as well. So overall, I think this is one where, especially with the harder sound, the more classic sound, the fans are actually going to really get behind it. And even with some of the more experimental sounds, those old fans are still going to get behind it because a lot of it is still there. They didn't go full blown, you know, trying something completely different. They kept a lot of that same, you know, core sound there, but just mixed around it a little bit. It's not the best album in the world, but in terms of, you know, taking a look at what they've done in the past couple of albums, this is definitely a step in the right direction. And honestly, I got to give them a hand. Well done. Well done. So, can we talk a little bit about my favorite subgenre of rock right now, the metalcore scene? Yes, we can, because ever since the beginning of 2019, when I first heard of Motionless in White and their style of metalcore, I've been fully into the genre as well.
I have my longtime friend of mine, Jake, has been really into Motionless in White and what they've been doing. And Motionless in White is doing a good job right now. It also has that electronic influence, which do what you will with it. It's what's happening in the industry. So, you know, come into it with an open mind, but they, of all bands, do a really good job of executing on it.
Yeah. So like a song like off their last album, Code, or else I said Disguise, their song Code. Like, I think I may have mentioned it to you earlier, but it sounds like, you know, like they really took like that like electronic style, that electronic metal style, new metal style that Linkin Park kind of had. And I still think about it every time I listen to it. You could literally take out Chris Motionless, put in Chester Bennington, and it is just a straight Linkin Park song. Like, they built it so well. However, they have had times they kind of went with a little bit more electronic influence on there, but then they went with more, they did at times go with a sound like they did on Disguise, which sounded like it would fit on their last album, Graveyard Shift. They went with one of my favorite songs from last year, Thoughts and Prayers, which was just straight up off of, like, you know, their Creatures album back from 2010, 2011, which had no, you know, electronic influences in there, but they just went hard as all hell on it. I loved it.
What did you think of Drugs?
By because I'm like, what? Because I've heard a couple of people. I've heard a couple of songs called Drugs. If are you talking about the Falling in Reverse one?
Oh yeah, I'm talking about Falling in Reverse, not Motionless in White. Thank you.
Because with Falling in Reverse, I've had a real interesting thing with them, just because I never really got into them. Like, listening to The Drug in Me Is You, that whole entire album, it kind of sounds like Escape the Fate 2.0, which I'm a fan of just because I like that kind of sound. As times went on, like with Fashion, they liked that whole entire album, and with their I can't remember their third album, weren't the biggest fan because I thought it was a little more, you know, just kind of poppy, all over the place kind of thing. But there are parts where, like, with what Ronnie Radke had written, like, there's a lot of stuff there that people don't really understand. Then, I
had a real soft spot for that man when he was in Escape the Fate.
Oh, God, yeah. But then when I first really started getting into him was when they did the Losing My Life, Losing My Mind kind of thing, because they kind of had that new metalcore style where they're mixing more rap in there as well. So naturally you can get more electronica feel in there. And I liked Losing My Life more than Losing My Mind, but all of a sudden then Drugs came out and I'm like, okay, this is even better, because you're bringing in the electronic influences there, but there's so much going on and they flow consistently well together. Then you get to that the bridge and the breakdown where all of a sudden you hear Corey Taylor coming out of fucking nowhere. And after I heard Drugs, I'm like, man,
with the RKO.
After hearing Drugs, I literally thought Falling in Reverse, like, this is top notch from them. Like, can they get any better? Yes, they could.
They definitely could get better. They have one of the most unique sounds out of anybody I've listened to as of recently.
Well, especially after listening to Popular Monster for the first time, I don't think I've gone a day without listening to that song. That was my favorite song from 2019 because the rapping that he did on there, it was a lot darker and sinister than, you know, other things that they've done in the past. I'm just like, whoa. And even like the electronic influence on there, it was more geared towards like a metalcore fan. Then all of a sudden they hit the chorus, they transitioned so well in that like emo post-hardcore kind of sound. Then you get to the bridge of the breakdown, and that's just in your face metalcore. And every part about it, I couldn't get enough of it. I still can't get enough of it. When I saw them play, was that on the 22nd of February? Yeah, in Madison. I mean, I almost broke my nose during that show because someone hit me with a flying elbow right as the bridge started. I'm like, fucking hey. I was mad because all of a sudden, when he screams, "Where the fuck is your God now?" and everyone runs together in the wall of death. I was mad I wasn't going to be able to be a part of that. Yeah, nose isn't broken.
That's so brutal.
Wasn't bleeding.
I love that part of that song.
I was. Oh, that put that song over the edge for me. Like that was the moment where I'm like, this is the best song of the year. That was it.
So he opened up a wall of death for it?
They didn't even ask. We just knew.
Fair enough. Honestly, that's as far, if you're into the metal scene, that part of the song is pretty self-explanatory. You're about to go fucking nuts.
They built it in so well for it too. It's perfect for it.
Mm-hmm. So another band, a band that I am really, really, really liking right now. Honestly, one of my favorite bands right now. Picked up a T, Polaris. They dropped their the new album, The Death of Me, and I love that album front to back.
For me on that album, I mean, we're definitely about to dive into it, but for me overall, I think there were parts of it that I was like, I didn't necessarily love it front to back overall. However, the parts I didn't like were very much overshadowed by some of the parts that I absolutely loved.
The song Landmine. Ooh.
Yeah, because that was like their third single that came out for that. They literally just kind of kept the vocals unclean throughout the whole entire thing and just were going to throw it right in your face.
That was for the anti-establishment working man sort of song, and I can relate to that.
Because I was trying to pin down the meaning of the song too, and I think this one has a couple of different meanings overall. Because just taking a look at how the lyrics are in the first half, they kind of do go with that, more of like that punk rock kind of meaning where it's anti-establishment, middle class rising up to take power, and then the second half of the song also takes a look at you want to do this, but what's your personal responsibility in all of this to make sure that you change your life for the better. So kind of looked at it a couple of different ways, and I actually really liked how Landmine did that, given how the fact that it was brutally hard and just was not going to give up any step of what they kind of accomplished up to that point.
They did a really good in-depth breakdown behind the meaning of all their songs. I can't remember who the interview was with, but they were talking about how that song is the realization that nobody's going to help guide you along. You have to go and make things happen for yourself, because when we're kids, we're coddled and we're told that we're awesome and that there's always going to be someone here to help you. But as you become an adult, you realize that you're really out on your own. And that song encapsulates that, where it's talking about, hey, you realize you're nothing special. You're just another cog in this world, and you either learn to help yourself or you fall into the pit.
Man, it looks like just looking at the lyrics, I think I pretty much, I didn't say it the exact same way, but I think I pretty much got it.
Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah, because I still remember when you sent me that one, you're like, dude, you got to listen to this thing. I'm like, okay, let's listen to it. Just listen to it. I'm just like at work, just sitting there, just like,
Ooh.
Am I supposed to like get up and hit somebody now or what?
Yeah. Are you still at the same job?
The one that I've been in for the past 6 months now. Okay,
no. I was thinking about the other one where you might be able just to grab a wrench and start going AWOL.
No. I'm not there anymore.
Fair enough. The song Pray for Rain was really good too. I really like that. That's the opening track off of that album. When they went into the meaning for that song, it was something that something that hit for me. The song Pray for Rain, they talk about how when you're born, you have this well, let's say we have this well of tolerance and you have like a finite amount of tolerance and understanding within you. And then as you live throughout your entirety of being on this planet, that well just gets drained and drained and drained. And eventually you become a little bit glossed over and jaded and numb to the world, which I feel like is a pretty, especially in the way things are today with how much the bad things in the world take the spotlight over the good things. I'd say that's something that a lot of people can really relate to.
Oh, very much so. I mean, just because you take a look at the news, they're just gonna throw anything negative in your face, mostly just to get ratings over it. However, it's especially like I can attest to that too, because I don't even like it's if it's on right now. I mean, take a look at what's going on with all the stuff that's going on with the coronavirus. I'm looking at it and I'm not going like crazy, like, oh my God, this is horrible. It's just with the way things have been going over the past like 5, 6, 7 years with me, you know, being a little bit kind of out of that bubble of, you know, cause you know, what was that? Shoot, was that 7 years ago, right? Like 6.5 years ago, like all of a sudden, like we graduated from high school, went off into college and kind of got away from that, the bubble that had been created. It's kind of seen more of the world. And all of a sudden it's just like how much we've seen after a while. It's just like, is this really as bad as it is kind of thing? Just because we've seen so many things get blown out of proportion.
Yeah. I guess since we're talking about, let's just touch on it really quick. It's as far as diseases go. Yes, it's pretty contagious, but it's not really all that deadly. The mortality rate is like 3% and everybody's making it sound like everybody who's getting it is going to the hospital and dying. And it's not like that. It's not this giant pandemic that's about to wipe out half the world like the Black Plague. It's a lot more under control, and we're in a place that has advanced medicine like the states that we live in. It's going to be pretty equipped to be able to handle that sort of disease, where the major
areas where it's going to be like those areas where a lot of people are going to end up falling to that mortality rate are going to end up.
Where I was going is the major factor that causes the death within it is pneumonia. And that's so treatable at this point that unless you're like an old elderly, like unless you're the elderly or you have a compromised immune system, you don't really have to worry about it. People like me and you who are, you know, in our 30s, well, not 30s, in our 20s, Chris, come on. We're in our mid 20s. I feel like I'm 30, man. You turned 25
in a month.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel older already having to support my own self. It makes me feel old. But people like you and me who have healthy immune systems and everything like that, we really have nothing to worry about. Even if we do catch it, sure, it's going to suck. We're going to be sick for a week or two or whatever, but we'll get over it.
Yeah, and even when I take a look at but again, going back to kind of what Pray for Rain was kind of talking about too, just kind of, you know, trying to find a way to fill that well back up, just, you know, kind of have a little bit more of that tolerance in the world, not feel as jaded or just kind of as numb to everything. It's really hard in today's world just because of how much negativity is thrown our way. And it's just like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. Oh, it's another bombshell report that's going to change everything. It's like, is it really? Or are you just saying that just so that we click on it?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I think that this album as a whole does a really good job of going into the negative in the world and talking about how it's overcomable if you're willing to put the effort in, which is a message that I really like. And I think that they did a really good job throughout the album of conveying that.
Yeah, and I gotta say this though, because I really want to talk about this song. There was one song from the moment I heard it, I just I just listened to this thing straight through, but then all of a sudden like started really looking at the lyrics of it. From when I first heard this song, like it hit me in some weird way. Then I started really looking at the lyrics of it, and it just all made sense on why I just love this song and can't stop listening. It's the 7th track on the album, Above My Head.
Above My Head. So what was that tied you into that song so deeply?
So when I was taking a look at it, it was like the meaning I got out of it was like it looked like it was a song about like a failed relationship or a failing relationship overall, because one person on the end just kind of was a little bit more jaded or just like didn't work hard enough at it, or essentially kind of blew it in the end. And I mean, shoot, take me back like 2.5, 3 years ago, and I mean literally I'm like banging my head against the wall like, holy shit, this is what I thought. And like thought of myself, and it's just kind of just, especially when you hear just anything that is outside the chorus, just the anger and just the animosity in that song that you hear, it just really just associated me with the fact that it's just like all the kind of things that were kind of just how my mind just ended up trying to tear me apart inside, and how much I wanted to, you know, how much I hated myself over all of it. And and all of a sudden you hear the chorus. It was like, God, I gotta take a look at the lyrics for this one because it's so freaking good. One sec. I should have had these pulled up because I should actually know these. Number one on the.
It's a brand new album. I'm not going to fault you.
Yeah, but I'd probably listened to the song like 50 times already over the past like little over a week. Alrighty, here we go. Above my head. Yeah, so the chorus, I'm a wreck, I confess. I'm in so far above my head, and I've been telling everyone that I can't bear the weight. It's like, it's always a little bit different because I just try to hide all of that too. But then after a while, I was like, I just couldn't, like, I couldn't do it. And then trying to figure out how to tell people that I couldn't deal with it myself and how bad it was going, I was too afraid to. So I was like trying to tell everyone. And then all of a sudden, when I break, do you break? Kind of like the wondering all of a sudden, does the other person feel the same way? Do you feel it when your bones are aching? Even as we go, it hurts to know that some things never change. I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. It hit me in such a different way.
Yeah, it's hard to take a step back and kind of reevaluate yourself, because that's one of the toughest things to do. It's a lot easier to evaluate someone else when you have no real tie or stakes involved in it, but being able to step back and evaluate yourself is a tough thing to do, and that song does a good job of capturing that process.
Oh yeah, and it's just another thing too with one thing that I've been liking from metalcore recently is it's, even though I've been hearing a lot of the times where it's like, you know, the consistent metalcore construction within a vocal structure where you're really going with an unclean set of vocals in the verses and like in the bridge of the song. But then the chorus, you're consistently going with cleaner vocals. And with what Polaris did, they really didn't do a lot of that. They did, you know, a couple of songs here and there. But that was one thing I really liked about the album as well, because it never felt like there was another song that was going to sound like another song, like back to back or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There was really nothing here that made this album feel like it was going to be stale. And how they built that song specifically, I mean, if they would have made, you know, the whole entire album sound like something like that or have that same kind of construction, it wouldn't be nearly as good. However, placing it where they did, just having it just stand out overall to me. Oh my God. I don't even, like I said, I don't even know how many times I've listened to it overall. I listen to it all the time now. Even though it's been like a week.
I think there was only one song that had that really traditional metalcore structure, and that was Vagabond. But Vagabond came in with a very bright sound. It used that traditional structure, but it didn't have the traditional vibe that a metalcore song had, where it's a lot of doom and gloom. It had this very, what's that song by Hollywood Undead? The Suicide song?
Bullet.
Yeah, it almost had a kind of Bullet vibe to it, where it was kind of one of those, still a little bit sad, but in a bright way.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that too, because even taking a look at the intro of that song, it kind of had this like the metalcore style, but it had a vibe that I've heard on a bunch of different Chevelle songs. So just looking, I'm like, wait, what? Like, is this even a thing? And then, you know, you transition back from the first verse to the beginning to, like, you know, where like the chorus sounds, you're really getting more of that Polaris metalcore sound they've built up. So you're getting more into that classic construction once again. However, I do agree with what you had to say, where it's not gonna have that doom and gloom kind of style that a lot of the metalcore sound has on like a, you know, like a general basis. But it had much more of a dynamic feature to it, given the fact that they kind of, I mean, they didn't go full into it like Hollywood Undead did with Bullet, because I mean, that they went full on like, this is going to be a happy sound. This is going to be a happy sound for such a horrible thing.
That was full send on the happiest suicide song ever written.
I mean, if there's a way to write that, yeah, that's the best way to describe it, is the happiest suicide song ever written.
Yeah, that song was a song all its own, and I haven't heard another song like Bullet. But
Vagabond has a little bit of that.
It has that general vibe.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that influence in there as well, where you I mean, not, you know, it's not going to sound anything like Bullet, but it has that influence of making something not nearly as nice or a really tough subject to talk about. A little bit
trying to smile through the pain. Pretty
much, yeah. I mean, how many of us have gone through stuff where we've dealt with pain, we've dealt with that hardship, and we've just tried to smile through it just for the better sake of everyone around us?
I would say just about everybody. And I think that's why this album is why I think this album was so successful, is it talks about a lot of the tough stuff that people go through, and it puts it in a way that's very relatable.
Yeah, and I think this one does it a little bit different than what a lot of bands have been doing recently. And I mean, I'll talk about if Five Finger Death Punch did it. I'm trying to think of a couple other bands that did. Sleeping with Sirens really, really focusing on this. Saint Asonia focusing in on this as well, where they're talking about, I mean, I'm just bringing up bands from a couple other genres as well, just to really show how kind of rock and metal have really taken this on, where they're really diving into more personal experiences about what they've been going through and talking about those harder topics, you know, more maybe taboo topics within culture, just to try and get more people to relate to their music and to feel like their problems matter. I mean, taking a look at Sleeping with Sirens' last album, Kellen Quinn talked about all of his depression and drinking and how it almost ruined him and his family from when they released Gossip up until, you know, they were writing this album. As I Lay Dying, we'll use Tim Lambesis when he got arrested for, hiring a hitman to kill his strange wife. Ended up getting arrested and was put away for, I think, 3-4 years. Yeah. But
yeah, I remember hearing that. That was like, oh man, you can't do that.
Yeah. But then ends up using all of that to start talking about, you know, understanding what he had done and trying to go through that rebirth and retribution style of it. I'll even throw it back to frickin' Ronnie Radke and Falling in Reverse with Popular Monster, just talking about all the stuff that had happened. Like, I mean, taking about all the stuff that happened with him, like everyone basically always on his case, always seemed as a bad influence, basically beating, like, you know, the Popular Monster. I know he wrote that song after being inspired by the Joker movie. I think I can't remember where I read that. It might have been on like Loudwire or something like that, but it makes a lot of sense where a lot of bands are really going into more of those personal issues. However, what Polaris did was they really didn't go into so many personal issues that they went through themselves, but they end up talking about those issues in a much different way.
And I think those are the albums that are the most successful, are the albums that people are really able to dive into their own personal life, because it holds more meaning and it holds more emotion within those songs. And I think that's part of making a successful album, is making an album that's personal to the person that's writing it, which they've done. I think they did a really, really, really good job with.
Oh, very much so. Because even taking a look at, I'm trying to think of another song. It was right after Above My Head. It's Martyrs. And then also says in parentheses Waves after it, because that was a much softer song, and that was the experimentation on the album that I think was also needed, just to make sure that the album, again, as they're going through trying to make sure this album wasn't going to sound too stale all throughout the whole entire basically throughout the whole entire runtime through it. They came up with something that was basically like a brutal hard rock track had a lot of different parts to it, because the first verse, it was so much more slowed down and just had a single electric guitar to focus on, with more of like a mournful and despairing sound. And taking a look at the song meaning, I think it was like, it's about being the person that's always there for everyone and putting everyone else's needs in front of your own, and that ends up like wasting away you, and people kind of take you for granted, and then you end up becoming just a person that you don't really want to be, or just don't really feel like yourself anymore, because you've put so many other people in front of your own needs. You really don't remember who you are. And then the chorus goes a little bit more with a hard rock take, but still mournful sound mixed in it along with the first verse, just more dramatic, more pressing, just kind of turns it all into something else, to where it's a much more dynamic song, where it starts out slow, it builds up to it, but really keeps that more dark, depressive hitting emotion to it.
I think you hit the nail right on the head with that first thing, and if I remember correctly, I believe they are also it also goes into the pressure of being able to write something that's going to be related to by the fans, and being able to help your audience as the musician.
Oh yeah, and they really hit the nail on the head with that, again, by just expressing, like I said, so many different styles, or not styles, so many different meanings for songs on this album that weren't, may have been coming from personal experience, but it wasn't overtly about those personal experiences. It was something that painted like a broader picture to it all, to basically let people in a lot easier.
Yeah, something where you can throw your own meaning behind the song, but still have a guided direction of where the meaning is going. Not like let's say Chevelle, for example, where their lyrics are completely just up for interpretation. It's whatever the hell you want to make of it on a lot of them.
Yeah, and then versus someone like I'll throw Sleeping with Sirens in there as well, where a good amount of their songs were much more, especially their last time, were much more narrow to just guide you along with what Kellen Quinn had gone through. You take a look at, again, like Chevelle, like you just said, man, you look at those lyrics, try and figure it out. It's up to you, kind of thing. It's whatever you want.
It's tough.
And this one's been more of like it's kind of like a guided tour through yourself.
Yeah. Yep. It's this album hits that middle ground a lot more, where you're still guided along, but it leaves room for personal interpretation, which is, once again, another thing I think a lot of successful albums have to do in order to be widely successful.
Oh, very much so. Because again, even I'm trying to bring up a couple other ideas too, especially in the past, like I want to say like 10, 15 years. It's those albums that just kind of just are there just for the sake of being there and don't really have that substance to really connect with the audience on more of like a personal level. Mm-hmm. Really haven't had the amount of success that others have had. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a few that really have gone in a different path that have gone. I'll use Ice Nine Kills as an example with their Silver Scream album. Yeah, you're really not I mean, you're basing all your stuff off of horror movies, but it really does work out in the end because so many people like those horror movies you listen to the songs and it's like they literally took the sound of that horror movie and put it into a song. Mm-hmm. So it fits. The feeling fits. And it's just kind of an opposite end of what a lot of other bands are doing that have these successful albums in the metalcore scene. And that's the ones that really go more personal and really talk about those harder to talk about topics.
A band that I know you've been telling me about that I just kind of opened my eyes to is that band Architects. And I'm really excited to start listening to more of their stuff. I've only checked out probably 5 or 6 songs at this point, but I haven't disliked one of them yet.
Well, one thing that's interesting is if you take a listen to their most recent album, Holy Hell, this is after the death of their, I believe it was their lead guitarist and the guy that wrote all the songs. So this album they tried writing it basically as like a memoriam to him. And the band ended up using that album, like, and all the lyrical content really going through it. It talks all about like the 5 stages of grief going through it, and then kind of showing off like how the band went through dealing with the death of someone that's very close to them, very important to them, and then going through all the different stages, and then finally coming to a spot where do we go from here? And listening to that album, I mean, if you listen to it and you listen, it's like almost, I'll put it this way, because when you have a major player leave a band, yeah, you're going to have may have like a difference in sound or something like that with someone new. This is not the case.
Kind of like is it kind of somewhere along the lines of what happened with Avenged and Rev?
Yes.
Okay. That's, as I said, I'm really excited to start digging into that band more. It's actually probably, assuming I just don't piss away my afternoon, is probably going to be what I wind up doing with my afternoon, is checking out them a little bit. And there was one more band that I was really excited about as of basically finding out about the Heavy Music Awards in Britain. And I started digging into those bands there. The other one was Bury Tomorrow. I was a big fan of Bury Tomorrow as well. I really like their sound, and I'm excited to check out them more. I saw that they were on tour. It might actually be in Minnesota soon. I might be mistaking them for another band, but I'll have to double check that.
Ooh, I might have to go start listening to them as well, just to give them a shot, see what happens. Because even one of the bands that you told me about that I've been like right when I started listening, I mean, that I kind of stuck to over the past maybe couple of weeks has been that Italian metalcore band, Stain the Canvas.
Stain the Canvas, man. I was so I find a lot of my new music on Spotify. I go through the Spotify playlist and I just hit play and I just sit there and listen to a bunch of new music. And I found them. I'm pretty sure it was. What the hell is the name of the song? This is going to kill me because I really like them.
Okay, where the hell did I throw my phone? Because
a God.
Oh yeah.
A God. I heard that song and I'm like, damn, these guys sound a lot like what I wish Bring Me the Horizon was still able to bring to the table. And I'm really excited for them to keep going and maturing as a band, because they have that crazy high pitched scream that
Ollie Sykes used to be able to hit.
Thank you. That Ollie Sykes was able to do before he started blowing out his voice and all that. And man, it's a brutal scream. I'm a big fan of it.
Oh, don't worry. In 2 weeks' time, I'll tell him all about it.
Man, I can't wait for that interview. That's going to be an awesome interview. That's right before my birthday. It's like an early birthday present.
I'm absolutely psyched for that one because even when you brought him up, I'm like, after I started listening, like, I got to give it a shot. So let's just see if we can get him on. All of a sudden, everything kind of came into fruition, and I got the email on Wednesday from them saying that for when I feature them on the My Song of the Day stuff for their Song of the Day feature that I'm going to pick, just because, well, their song, I think it was called Fear from Nowhere. It was the third song. Oh God, that is that is probably, that's one of my favorite tracks from the year so far, along with Above My Head from Polaris. Can't get enough of those two tracks right now, but
Hell Made Me was another really good. Yeah. I really liked Hell Made Me. They have just a very hardcore, brutal sound, but they also have they use that electronic influence, not so much like the way that it's being used in the modern metal scene, but more so like Bring Me the Horizon used off of
off the Sempiternal album.
Yes, off the Sempiternal album, and they do a really good job with it. It's that orchestral, that very orchestral sound, and I love that how they work that in there. It gives it adds a layer of darkness to it.
Yeah, because I mean, anytime we hear that orchestral sound, especially within the media today, a lot of that time it's used to depict those more darker, more depressing, more sinister things. I mean, video games are a perfect example of it, or movies.
Big time.
It's, you hear that, and it's just like you're getting into something scary.
There's something haunting about having the winds and the violin and all that sort of stuff in there, and they do a really, really good job.
That's the word I was looking for. Was haunting. That's the word, haunting.
Really great job. And I mean, I get that they just released the album, but I already can't wait for them to release another one. I'm excited to just hear them to continue on as a band.
Well, I can't wait to see all of a sudden, other people start really listening, and all of a sudden, they're doing these opening, like they're opening for band, like some major band on a major tour that's coming through the States. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's see who's here. Oh, it's like, I'm trying to think of hell, Motionless in White might be a good one to pair them with.
Stain the Canvas is going to be one of those bands that definitely blows up and gains a following. I don't see them ever just falling off there. That's a band that I think is going to have a lot of success coming in the future. And it's just a matter of time until they get their turn.
Well, and then being an Italian metalcore band as well. I mean, especially with the fact that metalcore is huge over in Europe right now. Mm-hmm. If they just are able to get their sound into the ears of the German audience, that's just going to take them to a whole nother level. Then they're going to end up getting in with some of the other bigger bands over there. I mean, maybe they'll end up getting in with some band like Parkway Drive, and then all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, they're set.
If I remember correctly, I think over the three major streaming platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music, I think they hit a million plays on their music. So they're already well on their way to having a good standing within the metal community.
Hell yeah, that's what we're talking about. Woo!
Yeah, they're doing great, and I'm really excited for them. I reached out to them really early on Facebook and just let them know, hey guys, I love your music. You're doing a great job. And they reached out right away and said, thanks, man. We really appreciate it. And I love bands that are willing to do that and interact with their fans. There's something to be said about bands like that are appreciative of the people that enjoy their music. Some people just they're like, yeah, I'm the shit and you're gonna smell it.
Yeah, they got back to me really quickly too.
They seem really nice, really grounded. I'm really excited, and I hope they have a bright future within the metal community.
I hope so too, because I mean, there's other bands too that are really starting to pick up steam, like Polaris being another one of them, especially after this album. I mean, I hope because I haven't seen anything like. Are they going to be touring in the U.S. at all potentially, or?
So I've been kind of keeping up with them on Facebook, and there's been fans left and right saying, "Come on, do a States tour, Come on, come to the States." And they're like, "Hey, don't worry, guys, we have something in the works."
Okay, that's good.
So they actually went on tour a little while back with Architects, and I am really sad that I didn't know about them back then, because holy crap, would that have been a show? Polaris and Architects on the same stage. Holy crap.
Jesus Christ.
I know. And I'm sure both the bands were at that point just less popular. I didn't know about them, but man, I wish I did.
I mean, Architects would have been popular, but they're much more popular again, like over in Great Britain and over in Europe. But then especially they've been over here for something like that. And all of a sudden you found out about it. It's like, okay, give it a shot. Let's go listen to them. God, you probably would have been like beaten up in the pit or something. All of a sudden just like walking out of there like, totally fucking worth it.
I'd have walked out there with a concussion and a half, and I would have been completely okay with the hospital bill. Because, man, those two bands they're so good, and I hope that they go on tour again. If they ever go on tour again, I'll definitely be there. And especially, I mean, if it's anywhere near, I'd definitely travel for that show. That's something that I would go to Chicago for, or go to somewhere like that. But being so close to Minneapolis, I imagine if they're going to Chicago, they're probably also coming out here as well.
Yeah, where for me it's just for me being in Milwaukee is, well, as you know, you were here for a while.
Sure was.
It's basically like, like those major tours, like I'll use Rammstein as an example as well. It's like, all right, yep, they're not coming here, but it's either going to be for me. I got to go to Chicago, go up to Minneapolis, one or the other.
That's one of those bands that I had to cut out seeing just for the sake of my pocketbook, and I'm sad about it because I hear that their live performance is second to none.
That's another one for me as well that I had to cut out basically based off of the amount of money that I'd had, because trying to do the Europe thing around that they're also playing the week before Riot Fest, and I want to go to Riot Fest once again because, well, with MCR headlining on Saturday, and and I still have to figure out if.
Have they announced any of the rest of the lineup for that? Or is it still just MCR?
It's still just MCR, and I'm getting pissed about it because I need to know, do I need to get the 3-day ticket or should I wait for the 1 day? This is all based upon if and when Rise Against is playing. That's the whole basis for it.
Yeah, and I honestly I completely forgot how big My Chemical Romance was until I saw that they were on tour again, and I went back and looked at their top 5 songs, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know all of those. They're the only band, in my opinion, that you can realize what song is playing by only the first note that they play, and you know what song that is.
Oh God, yeah. Once you hear the first note from Welcome to the Black Parade, everyone knows what it is. If for our generation, if there's a song that can compete with Bohemian Rhapsody based upon its structure, just how it's built, and its overall impact within the group of people that listen to it around the time of its release, it's Welcome to the Black Parade.
You hear that first piano key, and immediately, if you heard that song before, you know exactly what song's coming, and that's so rare. There was. What's Beethoven's? Is it the Fifth Symphony or
which one? The one that goes da 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 da.
Yes,
da 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 da.
Yes, that song. That was a lot of people call that the song most recognized based off of the first few notes, but I think that My Chemical Romance is. Cuts out 2 notes, and you already know what it is on that. You need to hear 3 notes from that one. You need to hear 1 from Welcome to the Black Parade.
Yeah. All you hear is the duh. It's like, yeah!
Exactly. And I'm sure everyone's going to go nuts when they play that song. The crowd's going to go absolutely crazy. Like, not maybe mosh and riot crazy, but they're going to lose their minds for the amount of excited they are to hear that song.
Yeah, and one thing about that song, too, because one thing I've been trying to do with a video that I want to make is like my top 10 songs of all time for myself personally. And the reason why it's taking so long is because there are songs, it's like they just hit me a certain way. And it's like, if they're going to be put on there, I know they're going to have to be put on there. And I got to put Welcome to Black Parade on there just because every time, once you hear the just the lead into the last chorus, and right when it hits, no matter what, I could be anywhere. I could be dealing with anything, no matter what. Its song is going to give me goosebumps. No matter what. And it's like, if that's going to happen, that's got to be on the list.
I can't even imagine trying to make it my top 10 songs. My rock playlist right now is at 36 hours of music.
Oh my God.
I can't even imagine trying to go through and just pick 10 songs out of that, because that'd be so tough. And it depends on which part of my life I'm talking about. Because like the first album that I ever listened to was American Idiot off of Green Day. That was the first rock album I listened to front to back, and basically got me into rock and roll. And then I followed that up with some Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy was kind of the segue after that, because once again, that's what was getting radio play. But at the same time, I think early Fall Out Boy I have a real soft spot for early Fall Out Boy from Under the Cork Tree and
Infinity on High a little bit.
Infinity on High. Yep. I really like the song. I slept with someone from Fall Out Boy, and all I got was this. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You introduced me to that song, and I remember blasting that a couple of times in the car. We were just jamming out to it. It was fun as shit.
Pete Wentz hits a really nasty scream in that song. He doesn't do it often, but he did it really well on that song, and that was what really sold it for me. Was just that one scream that he hit. That just completely tied everything together for me. I absolutely love it. And even the album Save Rock and Roll, I got to see them at Summerfest a couple of years ago with Allie. They were being opened for by Paramore, and that was a really good show. I can't remember who the opening act was, but yeah, it was Paramore and then Fall Out Boy, and those two back to back were a really, really, really good show. And they did a bit of the music from Save Rock and Roll. Yeah, Save Rock and Roll.
Yeah, that was their album from 2013.
Yep, and they incorporated obviously a bunch of the old stuff, like Dance Dance and all that sort of stuff. And it was such a good show. They did an awesome job. So I have a soft spot for them. But then post that, and that's when I started to get into new metal, like all the Korn, Disturbed, Slipknot, all that kind of stuff. And then I became friends with the Werners, Joey and Tom, who really opened my eyes to a broader spectrum of rock. And then I started getting into the Seethers and the Chevelles and all of those sort of bands.
I mean, they're so big, and both Joey and his dad, they're just so big into Chevelle, it's insane. But seeing that, the one time seeing Chevelle with them, that was fun as hell.
Yep. And then they also got me really into Audioslave and Soundgarden. R.I.P. Chris Cornell, one of the greatest vocalists to ever do it. It's maybe the greatest rock vocalist to ever do it. You can make a case for him. Then they opened me up to that broader spectrum of rock, and now I've started to get into that metalcore scene where it's a little bit heavier, and that's kind of where I've been trending towards lately, listening to Elwood Stray and and Polaris and Architects and this band. I guess they're not so much metalcore, but like Shapes is a really good band as well. I don't know. Have you checked them out yet?
I think I featured them one time. I think it might have been early this year or late last year. You pushing me to do it so many times.
You ever check out their album?
I think I just checked out like 2 or 3 songs, honestly.
Check out the album. It's Nothing More-esque, but it's like if you were to cross Nothing More and a more modern Bring Me the Horizon, you'd kind of get their feel and sound. Maybe it's not your thing, but I personally really like them. I think they do a pretty good job of what they do.
Understandable. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is too with music. It's like going back to what we were talking about, like trying to put together like a top 10 songs. It's for me, it's just something where it's like, again, it's like why it takes so long is because I gotta listen to them and I just gotta feel like they're gonna be that way. And it's like some with Welcome to Black Parade, just because every time I hear that lead into the last chorus and once it hits, I get goosebumps no matter what. Like I have such a strong feeling towards that. Of course, Savior by Rise Against is going to be on there because I haven't stopped liking that song since I was 14.
Swing Life Away, also just great
God,
song.
Yeah. But then like there's a couple others, and like, do I want to put these on there? Do I not want to put these on there? Is it too short, too long? I don't know. Do I want to put Eternal Years by Motionless in White on there? Do I want to put Not Gonna Die by Skillet on there? Do I want to put something by Ice Nine Kills on there? Do I want to put Popular Monster on there? I just don't know. Do I want to go all the way back and put some from AC/DC on there? Do I put something from Rush on there? I don't fucking know.
That's where I'm at. It's so tough. My musical preference has changed so much over the years that I still have a lot of love for these old bands that I maybe don't listen to as much anymore. But at the same time, individual songs from that period in my life hold a certain significance to where, even though I may not listen to it as much anymore, it's still a song that I might consider putting on the top 10, even though it's not in my top 10 songs at the moment. Yeah. So it'd be really hard making that separation of my top 10 now and my top 10 of all time. It's a tough list to make.
So I have to break that out now. It's like, okay, top 10 songs from when I was in high school, top 10 songs from when I was in college, top 10 songs from when I was going through the quote unquote dark time, top 10 songs since starting the whole entire My Song of the Day thing. That would probably be the easiest one out of all of them, because honestly, that one's pretty much set right in there.
Breaking it down into an entire series, and then maybe once you break it down into the series, going back, and that way you can revisit. You already have these pre-made lists that you can kind of look through and then
fully understand it. Because all of a sudden, like for me to be like, all right, top 10 songs in high school. Okay, Savior's on there. Already top 10 from college. Hey, Savior's on there. Top 10 from the dark time. Hey, Savior's on there. Top 10 from since I started this. Savior's still on there. Okay, that's definitely going to be on the top 10. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I would I think that's the only way that I'd be able to do it is if I made lists and that I looked on the list and saw what the common themes were, because I mean, I got to imagine I have close to like 300 probably more than 300 songs on that playlist at this point, and to pick just 10 of them would be so tough for me.
I mean, even if I gave you a day, you'd probably have it only narrowed down to like 200. If I gave you a week, you'd have it narrowed down to 175.
I have a day and a half of individual songs on that playlist. So if I were to listen to music from now till tomorrow, I wouldn't be done for 36 hours listening to that entire playlist. So, I mean, it would take me a long time.
I'm pretty sure if I tasked you out to that, Allie would be pissed.
Oh my God. I would have to just put in the headphones. So for Rockfest, I bought this speaker. Okay. So every year that we go to our rock festival, we always have the problem of our speakers dying after like day one and a half or whatever, and then we have no speakers anymore. So I'm like, man, I need to prepare and figure out what I'm going to do to not have this problem again. Should I buy battery packs? Battery packs are expensive, but we need a bunch of them. No, that's a bad idea. So I was looking around through Reddit. I'm like, best speaker to bring to a music festival, and just some obscure Reddit thread. So this thing called the Ion World Rocker, and I was like, let me check to see if there is one somewhere. One on sale on the entire internet in the US, and it was from some music shop in like Vegas or something like that. But I picked it up, and it's a big speaker, like basically the size of a guitar amp, and it has a 75-hour battery life. I was like, yep.
I'm pulling it up right now, and because when you started talking about the speaker, like I kind of had an idea of what you were going to be talking about, like where you're going to go with it. And oh yeah, because my buddy George, he always has one that he always takes to the beach with him every single time, and it's just like it's got a great sound to it. It's got a great life to it. He even told us about how he went on. This was like maybe 2017 or something. He went down to Panama City Beach for spring break, just being the trash person, that kind of fun stuff. I mean, I've done it before, but like he said, he took it and he dropped, like someone threw it in the ocean for some odd reason, and he thought it was busted, but all of a sudden, like it kept playing, like it was that durable. However, the charge port for it was broken, so he had to basically like try and wait till it died before he got a new one. And he said like this happened like on day 2 of their like week-long trip, and it lasted the whole week.
That's actually another reason that I picked up that speaker, is because it is water. I don't know if it's waterproof, but I know it's water resistant. So if it starts raining during the festival, which it does every freaking year I go, God forbid it doesn't become a mud bath one day in. But that's why I got it, because it's water resistant. It has a 75-hour battery life, and it's loud enough to piss off the neighbors if we wanted to.
Which I'm pretty sure if we're playing that kind of stuff, the only way we're gonna piss off the neighbors if we play like some like basically we play Amo. Let's play Amo.
Man, rock festivals are so much fun because everybody within the rock community is so cool with everybody else in the rock community. Being that group of people where everybody tells you to turn off your fucking music, just to be in a spot where you can play that music, play it loud and play it proud. Nobody's going to tell you to turn down your music unless you're playing it at 4 a.m, which honestly I understand, because when I'm, it's rock festivals are a marathon, not a sprint. Actually, it's more like a sprint during a marathon, but yeah, it's great because it's going to be loud, it's going to be proud, and it's going to be good for the campsite. But basically, where I was going with that is, if I were to play this playlist, Allie would throw that thing out the window well before 36 hours.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to task you out to that because 1, we got to save the speaker. 2. Don't need Allie pissed at you and then also pissed at me because I put you up to it. I'm really proud of my wife moment. She's really taken a liking to my metal. Like, she listens to a lot more metal and that sort of stuff now. And I always play stuff. I'm like, hey babe, this is going to be kind of heavy, just a heads up. And she's like, this isn't that heavy. I'm like, yeah, you're doing good, babe. I'm proud of you. Well done, sir. Well done.
So yeah, she listens to my heavy metal now, and she doesn't make me turn it off anymore. And I'm, love, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, don't worry. If I tried that, it'd be like, maybe, I don't freaking know.
All the girls are a lot better at doing that than I am, but hey, I gave it a shot. You might have to edit that out.
This I'm much better at doing this. That's about
that's where I'm at. I can do this for hours on end.
I mean, I've been in shows where you're just going like this the whole entire time. But then again,
you gotta switch arms every song.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, I've been doing a lot less of this and a lot more just, running into people.
Running into people makes your shoulders a lot less tired, just makes your head a lot more sore.
Oh God, yeah.
So pick your poison. Maybe one day will be hand banging, and the next day will be body banging, and then you can let one recover for the next day.
It's gonna be tough for me to pick and choose because once I see a pick going, it's like there's time where it's like I don't want to get in there, or it's like I might want to get in there, but I just want to be on the edge. I'll just get pushed in there, get hit once. It's like okay, it's on.
I always try to suck people that are with me into the pits when I go to shows, but nobody ever wants to dance with me. It's tough sometimes, and I get the people that don't want to be in the pits because it can be rough in there. And if you're someone that has a little bit of anger management, you get hit in the face, and then you start seeing red. And you gotta have a certain personality to be able to make it in the pits and execute the proper etiquette while you're in there.
Yeah, which is why I think I do pretty well with that too. Because I mean, hell, I took a flying elbow to the face, thought I broke my nose, and when I found out I didn't break my nose, I was just happy the fact that I could just take part in that wall of death. Even when I jumped in the pit for the first time last Saturday, because it was during the Word Alive set, I got absolutely freaking leveled in the first 30 seconds. Like planted on my ass. Luckily, I had my shoulder hit instead of my head. Otherwise, because that floor is hard as a freaking rock, like I would probably had another concussion off of that one. Got picked up right away, and the guy's like, dude, the guy was like, dude, I fucking hit you hard. I'm like, yeah, you did. That was it.
At Summerfest, a long time back, I can't even remember when this was. One of my first years going to Summerfest, I went to a We Came as Roman show, and the pit was doing this thing where they were doing one-on-one matchups. So like basically Oklahoma drill from football, where just two guys go at each other. And me being a dumbass, I'm like, all right, I'm next. And then, of course, the biggest freaking guy in the pit stands up. He's like, all right, I'm in two. I'm like, oh, fuck no. This dude was like, he made me look small. I'm 6'3", like 190. And this dude was probably 6'3", 260, 270. Not like fat 260, like wide 260, 270. And I'm not a wide person.
Like built. Holy shit.
And he was actually really nice about it. He could have absolutely leveled me, but basically what he did is he like football tackled me, picked me up, and like drove me through like 3 walls of people, and then he put me down nice and soft at the end. And I was like, oh my God, this dude just killed me. If I don't know your name, but if you're out there and you remember it, you're the man for not killing me during that show. Because I mean, man, you plowed me through a bunch of people, and you could have ended my afternoon pretty quickly. But that was, man, the pits get rough, and I'm just thankfully that guy had some etiquette.
Dude, you're giving me hope for when I go see We Came as Romans in April. Because I kind of want to take a part of that.
That's another band that I really want to see live again. I didn't really have a good understanding of them at the time because I wasn't really into the metalcore scene at that point in my life, so I didn't know much about them. I just saw that there was a metal show at Summerfest, so I was like, thank God there's going to be a rock show here. So I went to go see them instead, and it was a really fun show.
Well, that was like the same thing last year when I was looking at the lineup for Summerfest. I'm like, this sucks. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, my friends were asking if I wanted to go see a show with them, and it was August Burns Red. I'm like, yeah, I'll go to that one. That was tipping up the benches so we had more room to mosh.
Oh,
Security wasn't a fan.
Security, this is the reason metal shows don't get invited to Summerfest. When bullshit like that happens, they stop inviting the metal bands and fuck them for that. But it seems like every year there's less and less rock and metal acts there, which for safety reasons is probably a good call. But come on, man, let us have some fun.
I mean, literally for the rock and metal ones, all I have to do is pick up like the first couple rows of benches, and give us our own space. That's all we need.
And that there's always those tiny little mosh pits off on the peripheries of the show, and those are just small little mosh pits, but I don't know this for sure, but it honestly feels like the bleachers are a bigger liability than they are a help.
They're a much bigger liability because, especially during that August Burns Red one, before they tipped up the benches, just in that little space in between the rail and the first bench, it's like 4 feet wide, and people were trying to mosh in that. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm on the bench in the first row. I'm like, okay, this is gonna suck. The amount of times I probably almost tore my ACL has to be like 7 or 8, just because of the amount of times I got you're on top of benches, you get hit. It's not that easy to keep your balance. Falling over or just like falling over from the backside, like, falling forward, first instead of falling backwards and then getting hit going backwards. My knee's getting caught in that bench.
How tall would you say those benches were that they tipped up in the air? You think they were like 15 feet tall each? 12, 10. I mean, they were tall. I saw the pictures from it, and holy crap, that was a safety hazard.
I gotta pull up the picture for reference now because I don't I just want to see like what the guy looked like that when he was like holding him up. Shoot.
How long did it take for security to get in there and tip those bleachers back down?
About 10 minutes because we wouldn't let him through.
That's good for them. Hold the wall, boys. Hold the wall.
Okay, so yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. For everyone watching the video, you'll see it on the side for the picture. But taking a look at it, it's like there's probably got a guy about 6 feet tall, and he looks like there's about like 3 more in between the center. So these might be like 18-foot benches.
If those things came crashing
I'm not sure
down.
if you can see it, but
oh, jeez.
Like the fact of the matter was like people wanted were gonna be willing to just hold them up and just not let them fall.
Yeah,
like that was gonna be more safe than anything else.
If they did fall, someone was getting fucked up,
and that someone would probably been me.
Yeah. It'd have been people in the pit. Maybe if it fell on enough people, it would kind of work as one of those things where as long as one person isn't taking the blow, it'll kind of work as like a group effort, padding.
Everyone just kind of lifts it up together and just pulls it off to the side.
They honestly should have just tipped them up backwards if they could, in hindsight. Yeah.
But then again, I still wish it would have worked though, because they just got to get rid of those benches for the metal shows. Just a couple spots up, just a spot in the front. Just give us our own dedicated space and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, like a GA floor area, kind of right up in front where there's just a nice open spot.
Yeah, but I don't think Summerfest is ever going to do that.
No, that's way too
commercialized.
Corporate. Yeah, it's way too commercial for them to be able to, or for them to be willing to do something like that.
Well, because even like with, because I know they're going to have Ozzy there this year, but then again, the second straight year, unfortunately, Ozzy had to bow out. I'm hoping the fact that because Manson was going to open up for Ozzy at that night at the amphitheater, I was hoping they were going to keep Manson on just because I knew the people would still show up.
What do you want to bet that they get Rob Zombie to fill in like every other time Manson goes on tour?
I would be surprised, but then again, like I don't think, like, again, it's the amphitheater, so you're gonna get just a bunch of seats. And then like the GA spots are on a hill all the way in the back, so it's just kind of like, again, they're built, like you said, built for corporate night and built for commercialization, because a lot of the music that's being played there now is just, it's a lot of pop, it's a lot of country, it's a lot more hip hop too now. And it's just, at times, it's, I get why they're going there, but again, it's just, and
a lot of the rock they play is tailored towards the older crowd too, like kind of like the biker rock, like the Aeros, well, like not the ZZ Top being biker rock, but ZZ Top and stuff like that, stuff for the older crowd that they know won't go too insane and burn down the grounds.
Yeah, unlike us, which probably, they're afraid are going to just go nuts and burn down the grounds.
Hey, they tried with the benches, but...
Yet the fact of the matter is when it comes to mosh pits, we have the rules. If someone knocks down, you pick them the fuck back up.
And no more of that throwing blatant punches bullshit. I saw it was a couple, I don't remember when it was, but it was one of the mosh pits I went, and someone just absolutely decked a girl and he got mobbed for it. Like, he got tossed out of the pit, and there's an understanding there. There's an etiquette. It's organized chaos.
Yeah, it's not as ruthless as it once was. It still looks that way, but everyone basically knows the base rules. It's don't crowd kill, and if someone gets knocked down and you're in the area, pick them back up. And there will be people that will come around and like huddle around you while other people are picking up to make sure that no one else hits you, and then you don't get cut above the freaking eye because someone falls into you.
Yeah, they when people fall, you always see that wall build up around them so they can get thrown back onto their feet really quick so they don't get trampled. And the rock community looks out for the rock community, and that's something I admire about the community as a whole. Yeah, and I absolutely love the fact that, like, like we said, like someone just decked a girl, and all of a sudden everyone in the pit just turned right on them. They said, you're gone, you're done, you're not allowed to be in here anymore.
No, because if you're just gonna crowd kill and try and do something like that, you don't deserve to be in there.
Mm-mm. And I get there's that group of people like throw hands and throw elbows and all that, but man, it's not worth getting knocked out over. You don't want to get knocked out or have to worry about getting knocked out every time you go into a pit. That used to be something people did, but I'm glad that practice has kind of been eliminated.
Oh, easily, just because. Again, it's something where you're still gonna be able to mosh, still gonna be able to hit the people super like hard, but the fact of the matter is you're not going for that knockout punches. You're going to
shoulder checks.
Yeah, you're going to shoulder check or even like sometimes cross check people, which that's still dangerous, but still, I mean, when you have so many people going around, it's bound to happen.
But it's a lot less dangerous than when people are just aiming for chins.
I'll put it this way, it's not malicious.
Yeah, exactly. There's an understanding that when you go in there, you're assuming a risk, but people have done a good job of getting rid of the unnecessary risk.
Yeah, the rock and metal community has really taken kind of that stance overall without really organizing it, just to say, we're not going to deal with you trying to maliciously hurt people. However, it is a mosh pit. You do go in there understanding the risks.
You might get stepped on. You might face plant. All that sort of shit is just liable to happen.
Yeah,
but
you might get decked. You might start bleeding. But the fact of the matter is it's not going to be something where someone's going to come in and just try and pitch you right in the face. And if there's gonna be a fight that breaks out in there, the rest of the people in the mosh pit are going to converge on the people and just get them the hell out of there.
Separate it. Yep. There was the year I went to Northern Invasion. The guy that I was camping next to went into a pit for. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the night that Manson Zombie played, and I think it was a Manson pit, and he came back after I saw him the next morning. He would always wake me up with just taking straight pulls of brandy. It was Corvels. Ooh. So we would just wake up and we just start taking pulls of Corvels and chasing it with orange juice or whatever. But he came back and I saw him the morning after. He just had a giant hematoma on his forehead. I was like, man, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I lost my phone. I lost my wallet. I got decked. I'm like, hey, man, good for you. He's like, man, I just hope I can find my wallet. I'm like, you and me both.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
He said he accidentally caught an elbow. He said it wasn't necessarily a guy's swing, but he just kind of ran into an elbow because he was pretty drunk. And just he looked like he was in a fight. Yeah, it was all in good fun.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like with the mosh pits, I go and like, yeah, I'll get hit. Like if I get hit in the face, like I have in the past. I mean, I'm never going after the person that hit me in the face, especially unless I know for a fact that they just were coming right after me to hit me in the face. Like when I got the cut above my eyes because some dude tripped and went head first into me, but I mean, he tripped.
And most people like turn around and say, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry." Like, damn, I didn't mean to do that. Like most people are pretty nice about it. Like they're concerned about the other people's safety.
That dude was afraid that I was going to try and go and fight him, and I'm like, I kept saying, "Just get me out of here." And the reason was because I was bleeding. I didn't want to bleed all over a bunch of other people.
Yeah, him and I want to give everybody the hepatitis.
Yeah. Him and I had a pretty good laugh while we were trying to like stuff like toilet paper up on my eye just so it would stop bleeding.
Give it the old cut man technique. Throw some Vaseline and a little bit of cotton in there and go back in.
Oh, I mean, this girl that met me at the show, she ripped off a piece of her flannel. I literally stuck a bunch of toilet paper up here, tied the piece of flannel around my eye, and I looked like a freaking pirate.
Man, that's a hero. Someone who's willing to rip a shirt so you can keep on keeping on.
I gotta give her a lot of props for that one. However, after that, I didn't jump back in the pit for Motionless in White because they were headlining. The reason being was because I didn't want the cut to open back up again and have to deal with it or deal with bleeding on people.
Do I get a shout out? Who is your medic?
Who was my medic? No one really. I mean, I was pretty much.
Who was the girl that gave you her flannel? Who was the?
Oh, her name was Natasha.
Well, great job, Natasha. You get an A+ from me.
Alrighty. I haven't seen her in a while though.
I'm sure if she's still rocking on, you'll see her sooner than later.
Probably. I mean, taking a look at the shows they got coming up at the rave still, it's just like, okay, there's bound to be something like that because like Devil Wears Prada, we came as Romans for one. In this moment, seeing them again. Might go see Against Me. Not sure on that one yet. Might go see Less Than Jake. If I can still convince my brother to not work that night, just because That's like the one genre of music between me, my brother, Minnick, and his brother that we could all get along with is ska music. Like
ska's a lot of fun. Ska's just a big stoner party, and it's a good time.
Yeah, but then I'm trying to think. Volbeat, going to see them, so I'm actually planning on crowd surfing that one just because I haven't crowd surfed yet, but I actually have people that are going to the show with me that I trust, so I can say, hold my shit while I do this.
I got to crowd surf at Rockfest 2 years ago at Nothing More, and that was a great time.
I still got to give it a shot. I really want to do it. Just all of a sudden, just see me go, wee!
do it at least once. You got to do it once. I was like, man, I don't want to do this. Someone's going to drop my big ass on my head. But everybody did a good job. They kept me up. They got me to the front. And it was honestly a really cool experience to be able to do it at least once.
I feel like you got to pick the right show for that, too, just because, especially as a guy, just due to the fact that you don't want to end up, all of a sudden landing on a spot where all of a sudden it's like, a bunch of like 5 foot, 100-pound women that really can't hold you up.
You just got to make sure the crowd is dense enough. As long as the crowd density is good enough, then everybody is only holding like 20, 30 pounds a piece sort of deal. So if the crowd's dense enough, you're good to go. Safety in numbers.
And also to make sure that you're not like going, directly at the same time as somebody else, because that's I got a black eye that way trying to hold up 2 people. And then a third girl crowd surfing came in with her combat boot and hit me right under the right eye. I'm just like, God damn it.
I've taken my fair share of boots to the back of the head, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to be the one to tell them no.
I've had people land on top of my head because people weren't holding them up, and that's how they stayed up, was because like half of their weight is on the top of my head.
Exactly. I've bailed out a couple people from falling by just basically letting them fall on my back and bending over like a table.
Bills Mafia.
Damn near.
But yeah, hopefully even like for Rockfest as well, I get a chance to pull that off. Just whee, let's fly.
Man, I really hope you can make it out there. We still have, I think, 2 or 3 spots left at our campsite. So if you can make it happen, we still have a spot at our campsite for you.
All right. Does that mean I have to bring like a good amount of beer for you guys? I mean, I'd assume so.
I would never say no if you brought more beer. Also, we could always use lemonade because vodka lemonade is a staple of our afternoon.
Okay.
Or even vodka, either way.
I'll probably do the lemonade because I don't really drink vodka. That always gives me gut rot. I'll stick with the 3 types of liquor or types of alcohol that I always like to drink, and this will probably get me in a shit ton of trouble. Beer, tequila, gin.
I knew the beer and tequila were going to be there. Tequila sunrise isn't a bad way to start your morning.
Oh God, no! That's gonna be a great way to start the morning. But I'll do a gin day one day where I just drink gin. It'll be a day where I'll probably get sick, but I'll probably be laughing the whole entire time because when I drink gin, I just get happy.
That's how it goes, man. It's 3 days. You're like, I'm feeling good the first day. Let's get drunk, boys. And then you wake up the second day and you're like, man, I made a mistake. And then you wake up
the third day like, I shouldn't be doing this again. Well, then you wake up the final day, like the day you're going home, like, no, just no.
It's hair. The third day is the worst because you can't drink because you got to drive home. But for the next couple or the first couple days, it's hair of the dog. You smoke whatever you need to smoke to get you level, and then you start drinking what you need to drink to even you back out to 100%, and you're back and running by, noon.
Wait, so on that final day, like after the last show on that Saturday, they force you to go home after that?
No. You spend the night, but you can't drink on Sunday because, you got to drive home on Sunday. There's no hair of the dog on Sunday.
Okay. Makes sense.
So that one's just suffer through it and hope you're not too hungover to drive home. And if you are, you park by the side of the road somewhere and try to make it.
you try and get rid of some of it so you can keep going.
Yeah, honestly, we've done 3 rock festivals now back-to-back years, and we've done a pretty good job of on Saturday night not going too overboard. Obviously, we still have fun at our shows, but we don't necessarily go back to camp and drink for until midnight, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
More so like 2 a.m.
And then after 2 a.m, it's, some people probably still drink anyway, but most of you guys probably like, fuck this, we're done. Why? Just got to get ready for tomorrow.
At that point, you're so sunburnt and beat up and tired, and your feet hurt from walking up and down to back to camp and up to the stage and back to camp, and then over to food and then up to the stage again, that you just, I mean, you're just ready to go to bed by the end of that last night.
Unless, you know, you've been drinking like, you just been, you know, have like a huge can of, you know, what is it? Yeah. Kyle's favorite thing, Monster Energy, and just pour some Jaeger in there and just, you know, just run off of that.
I can't remember. I can't remember if Slipknot is the first night or the last night. I hope they're the first night for Rockfest, because if they're not, oof, it's gonna be a tough go on Sunday morning, because I'm gonna be having a lot of fun at that Slipknot show. That's one of those bucket list bands that I still haven't seen and I need to see.
Well, sir, there's only one way to find out. Come on, where is it?
Just look up a Rockfest poster.
Yeah, because I always looking up like on their
impossible to find on their website.
It's so hard. If they just put the poster up there, that's all they need. Alrighty. It looks like it looks like that Snoop Dogg, Hollywood had Snoop Dogg Limp Bizkit one is a Saturday night.
Okay, that'll actually be a pretty good show to end with. That'll be a little more chill than the rest of it until they play Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit.
Oh god, then everyone's going nuts. But that'll be the one song that everyone's just waiting for. Slipknot's Friday.
Slipknot, okay, perfect. Get them out of the way early when I still have a little bit of energy. What are the headliners again on Thursday night?
Disturbed and Stained.
Disturbed and Stained will be Disturbed has a really you've seen Disturbed
twice.
They have really good live shows. And I'm pretty excited to see Stained too. I'm not necessarily the biggest Stained fan, but that's one of those bands that I definitely need to see at least once, especially since they're going to be there.
Yeah, taking a look, there's one other band on Thursday that's just sticking out to me right now as a band that I guess still got to go see. Just because of the fact that never got to see Adam Gante with 3 Days Grace, but if Saint Asonia is going to be there, I want to see it.
All right, so getting into Saint Asonia a little bit, my biggest critique is Adam's lack of vocal variation.
Ooh, explain.
He stays basically within the same octave for almost all of his songs, and the way he sings, he stays within that same vocal range in almost every song he makes. But he made they did this song, This August Day, where he goes up and down in his vocal range a little bit more, and I absolutely love that song. I hope that he utilizes that vocal range a little bit more in future music, because a lot of the stuff like knife in the back. What's the name of that song?
Knife in the Back.
Live my life.
Oh yeah, I can live my life. Go for my knife. Yeah, Live My Life.
Or I can pull out the one you stuck in my back.
Yeah,
like songs like that. He kind of stays within that same vocal range for almost all of the song. But on This August Day, he really opens up his vocal range, and it does a lot more for me.
Well, so I'm really take a look at something like Fairy Tale off of their first album as well. I think that's another one that you really find the same kind of thing with that little bit more increased vocal range overall.
Mm-hmm. I'll definitely give him a look. Admittedly, I haven't listened to all their albums front to back. I've only kind of picked out the songs that I've been told to listen. And a lot of the songs that I've been told to listen have that very classic 3 Days Grace, where they kind of stay very limited in the vocal variation.
Well, I mean, you can tell from old 3 Days Grace and from Saint Asonia as well. I mean, the driving force behind that whole entire writing style and sound is Adam Gantier.
I'm going to talk a little bit of shit here, so I apologize. But 3 Days Grace, their musicians, at least back in the day, were so plain Jane basic. I mean, I played almost no guitar, and I could play their music. There was no work put into any of their music. Adam was the entire driving force of that band, and he knew it, which is why he left, I'm sure.
Well, even if you take a look at some of the stuff that's come out recently from their past, I mean, I was not a fan of their last album, Outsider. I did like their song The Mountain, though, on that one. But then afterwards, I was like, this is like, you could tell it was all Adam beforehand.
It sure was. And Saint Asonia gives him some better instrumental backing, which he definitely, I'm sure, is appreciative of.
Yeah, and there's some songs in there, like with the song Sirens that they came out with in their last album. They did a thing where they had Sharon Denadella within Temptation featured on that song. And just the mix-up of how they sounded with it within Adam's vocal range. Because even though he stays rather consistent overall, it works so well with the mix of Sharon Denadella's vocals that the
harmonization.
Yeah, the harmonization is perfect. It's him trying to go with a lot more range on that one, kind of varying it. It wouldn't have been nearly as strong than just staying put and just letting the harmonization work between the two.
Sure. I admittedly also haven't checked out that song either, so I'll have to give that one a listen probably, maybe if not today, tomorrow, because I already have a little bit of a bucket list of stuff that I need to look at.
I know you got a laundry list, but because taking a look at the time, dude, we've almost gone 2 hours already.
It's always a pleasure. It's always super easy. I can talk about metal for hours.
Oh yeah, I know we can. But before we go, because I never asked you this question, and we're going to bring it all together. I'll bringing it back. Do you even know where I'm going with this?
Fire away.
Polaris album. Scale of 0 to 10. What are you rating it?
For me personally, that Polaris album, I'm giving them a 9 out of 10. I absolutely love that album. There's nothing on that album that I really dislike. They do a great job of experimenting, and they're all of their music has depth and layer, and it's a really solid album for me. I give them a 9 out of 10, and it's one of my favorite albums of the year so far.
For me, I'm going to go, unfortunately, lower than you. Not going to go too much lower though. I'm going
stab 8. Me right through the heart.
I'm not going much lower though. I'm going 8 out of 10 on this one. I do have it already on the list right now for my watch list for 2020 year-end awards for the album of the year. It is up there. There's a lot of things I liked about this album. The main thing I liked about this album though was the fact that it was not a cookie cutter metalcore album. Like everything about it, like you went from one song to the other. Nothing was going to be constructed very similarly. It wasn't going to get stale. There's always going to be something different for you to find on it. And man, that Above My Head song just still hits me too damn hard.
Awesome song. Landmine is the one that really does it for me. That song, I mean, I fucking hate the system. I hate the way that people are just bred to work and then die once they can no longer work. And that song gives me my Rage Against the Machine, if you will.
Just that kind of feel.
Yeah, basically, fuck you guys. You can shove this work shit up your ass. I'm going to do what I want.
Hell yeah. Well, on that note, sir, because I haven't seen you since probably since that Day to Remember concert. It's been a while.
Good show, though.
It was a good show. I really wish I would have done the crowd surfing at crowd server, but by the time that happened, I had no idea where anybody I knew was, so I wasn't going to lose all my shit.
Completely understandable.
Next time.
Next time.
Alrighty, well, bud, it was an absolute pleasure. This was, again, an absolute blast having you on the podcast once again. This will not be your last feature on the podcast, though, because, I mean, we can talk for hours about this shit.
Hey, I sure hope not. And when more music drops, more stuff that me and you both take a liking to, I'm sure I'll be back on and we'll be bullshitting about those albums, too.
Oh, I'm pretty sure on it. All right, bud, thanks for stopping by once again, and hope to see you soon, sooner than when I last saw you, because, well, it's been too fucking long.
Sure has been. Rock on, my guy.
Rock on, bud. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with one of my best friends of all time, Mr. Chris. Yes, you heard him beforehand on our halfway through, the year review from 2019. Finally got a chance to talk to him again on the podcast. It will not be his last feature on the podcast, though, because this dude is an awesome dude. So, yeah, let's get it ready for another one. Let's get ready to enjoy it, because next couple weeks we got more bands coming your way. And when we go to Rockfest, because yes, I will try and make sure that I'm there. I'm making sure of it, man, because I really want to be there. Chris and I are going to have some fun stuff to talk about with you guys, and we might even do a live podcast from the Rockfest grounds. I might bring all my shit with me too, because that just sounds like a fun fucking idea. Live from Rockfest! So yeah, get ready for that. Alrighty. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Chord Progression Podcast. Next week, I'm going to have another good hard rock band on the podcast. Their name, yet to be determined, because, well, we booked them, but, I just want to keep it a secret for now. And then we got a special two podcasts in a weeker coming up for you guys very soon. But get ready for that. And until then, thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast brought to you by My Sunday Rock 2000. Today, you guys know how I end all these videos with a big hearty see